So I'm going to start now. I'm not going to do my regular start because changing it up. You know. So I've wrestled back control of the show. It's mine again for this week. Today's episode of Connected is brought to you by Squarespace, PDF Pen, and Pingdom. There is no Steven, so, you know, if you've been enjoying the Steven regime, it has been overthrown for 1 week, and I'm joined by Federico. Hi, Federico.
Hi, Mike. You have banned Steven from this podcast.
Yeah, he has been banned for bad behavior. So that's what happens now. When Steven's not on the show, he has been banned, because when I'm on the show, I'm dead. So Steven has been put in time out for a week.
He has done unimaginable things, and we needed to ban Steven because of the things he's done, which we cannot share. But Steven has done the unthinkable, and he didn't deserve to be on the show anymore.
So here's the deal, dear listener. I wasn't on this episode, but I am editing this episode. I have not been banned. I will not have my name sullied by these so-called co-host of mine. So every once in a while during this episode, I may chime in and add my own thoughts.
And as is usual, when Steven doesn't show up, there is no follow-up, so there will be no follow-up today. I am going to do a piece of follow-out, which is to recommend and let people know about a new show that we have at Relay FM called Subnet. Subnet is hosted by the banished one, Stephen Hackett. And it is on weekdays. Stephen posts a couple of minutes every morning, or for you, with it's all the tech stories you want to know. So Subnet is basically our flash briefing show, and it is available on Amazon Echoes and Google Homes, and you can also tune in on your HomePod, and Federico has a little hack for that, which he'll tell us about in a minute. But what I love about Subnet, I'm kind of getting ready in the morning, and I'm making my coffee, and I ask my Echo to give me my flash briefing, and Stephen tells me about the technology stories that I need to know. And I feel like I'm somebody who is pretty informed about technology, but every day he tells me stories that for some reason I had no idea existed, which is very good because it's kind of just helping me keep abreast of what's happening in the wider world of technology. So it covers all kinds of technology. It's very, very good, very, very good. Go to relay.fm/subnet and you can find out more about how to subscribe, or you can just set it up on your Google Home or on your Amazon Echo. There are skills that you can enable. Currently, these skills are only available in the US and the UK, but they are being expanded to, I think, basically every native English-speaking country. We're doing this with Anchor. We're working with Anchor, and Anchor are working with Amazon on our behalf. Turns out Amazon are really difficult with the skill stuff and the language support. It's really friggin' annoying, but we're working on it. But you can go and you can try it out. Or you can listen to it on iOS devices with the Apple Podcast app, which also extends out to HomePod. And because Siri sucks, it tries to play for me a Shakespeare sonnet every time. I'm not kidding. When I ask for Subnet, it plays me a sonnet. Federico, you have a tip that you stole, which you've incorporated into your life.
Yes, I saw this tip on Twitter, courtesy of Terra Man. It's a way to, if you have a HomePod especially, or just any device with Siri, to create in the Apple Podcasts app, which I've been testing again because of the HomePods. You can create what are called stations, so are basically playlists. They're called stations, and the benefit of setting up a station in the HomePod, or rather in the Apple Podcast app, and to use the HomePod, is that you can ask Siri to play your station with just a single command, which is very convenient because, of course, Siri integration is limited to Apple own apps. And what I do, and what Terra also does, is you create a station, and to this station you add a bunch of these new types of daily shows, like Subnet or 9 to 5 Mac Daily. Actually, if you have recommendations for other daily tech shows, like 2-minute, 3-minute podcasts, I would love to know. And every morning when you're making coffee or having breakfast or something, you can ask Siri to play your station. The limitation that I've found is that my station is called Tech News. And if I ask Siri to play my tech news, it starts playing some kind of unrelated tech podcast that is called Tech News, which is not in my library, which is kind of weird because it goes to iTunes search, I guess, to find that show. Anyway, the correct syntax for me is to say play my tech news podcast station. Because if I omit the word podcast, it also starts playing a radio station on Apple Music, which I guess there's a tech news station on Apple Music for some reason.
Yeah,
anyway, if you say play my tech news podcast station, it'll work and it'll sync with iCloud. Also, this is like a sub-level teacher tip. I would say make sure that if you're using the Apple Podcasts app that you manually pull to refresh, because I've discovered that sometimes once you stop listening on your iPhone and you want to continue on the HomePod, sometimes you gotta manually sync your progress.
You gotta force the sync in.
You gotta force the sync in. Otherwise the HomePod will not pick up your playback position. So yeah, create a station, add subnet to the station, bunch of other daily shows, and listen to Steven's, soft tones as you're brewing coffee in the morning. It's perfect for that.
So Apple had a press release today about some Apple Watch features, right?
Yes, which is kind of strange because these features, they actually launched with WatchOS 4.2 in December. But Apple decided today to have this kind of big marketing push with a press release, a bunch of stories and recommendations on the App Store, and I assume some more media coverage coming later this week. What they are doing is they are promoting watch apps that use the new workout APIs in WatchOS 4.2 to integrate skiing and snowboarding activities with the workout API, with the health app on the iPhone, and with the activity app on the iPhone and Apple Watch. And these apps include Slopes by our friend Curtis Herbert, and there's another called Snow with 2 W's, which I originally thought it was a typo from the Apple press release. It's like Snow, but no, it's that's the name. And it's interesting because I see it as a way, and I should say before I move on, that you will be able to track the vertical descent, the horizontal distance of your runs, the number of runs, your speed, your total time, and your calories burned, which is actually pretty neat. This is pretty awesome. Anyway, I think it's interesting because it's a fascinating PR approach to what is effectively a delayed feature, which was originally announced with the Apple Watch Series 3 in September, delayed to WatchOS 4.2 in December, and now promoted at the end of February on the App Store and with the press release through the help of third-party developers. I think it's an interesting approach to, we've been talking about Apple sort of having this a bunch of iOS features and WatchOS features sort of scattered throughout the year, and this is another approach to that problem of how do we make a big push? Well, we ask developers to coordinate their app updates with us so that we can have one cohesive story with a press release, a dedicated section in the Today view of the App Store, and we can maybe get in touch with some websites that talk about ski resorts and that type of stuff, like dedicated publications, so we can have more coverage. I think it's really smart from a PR perspective.
I think one of the things about this that interests me the most is that Apple built the APIs but didn't put it into the workout app themselves.
Yeah,
which is weird. Like, because they built this for swimming, right? Because swimming and like skiing, right? There are specific movements that are specific to that type of activity that if you want to track properly, you have to do the work. Like, one of my favorite things that the watch can do, it knows what type of swimming I'm doing. It knows if I'm doing backstroke, freestyle, or breaststroke, and it will when I'm done with a swim, it will list out what it believes I've done in meters in each stroke, and that's because of the work they've put in. It's not simply like how long are you doing this for, right? Which I would assume for a lot of the general workout activities, they're just tracking how long have you been doing this for, estimating some kind of distance based upon what type of work you're doing and showing you the calories burned, right? That's like the general thing. But they went into specifics of swimming in the same way that they've gone into specifics of skiing, but they haven't included skiing into the workouts app. So one thing that I find this interesting, but another way that I look at it is I expect now many more types of activities like this, which are kind of like pseudo sport, like sports for a lot of people, but like they're like recreational activities for others, where the app will start to rely on third parties so they don't clog up the workout app, right? So
Yeah.
other types of activities, right? Like, I don't know, maybe rowing or football or tennis or, something like that, where you're doing some other kind of sporting activity.
Well, tennis is a sport, I think.
Well, yeah, but it's something people play in the same way that like skiing is a sport, right? But do you know what I mean? Like finding,
yeah.
and when I said rowing, I meant like literally rowing in a boat, not in like a machine. So like, I don't know. I expect that kind of. I honestly expect to see them do more with this, exposing the APIs, but then kind of just giving it over to third parties to work on. I think that's a good approach. It's an interesting approach, at least.
Yeah. I mean, because you're still burning calories and you're still doing physical exercise, even if you're shoveling snow. Now, I don't think Apple will have like a shoveling type of workout in the workout app, but maybe someone else could make a third-party app for, if you live in Chicago, like our friend John, and you need to shovel snow on a weekly basis in the winter. I mean, that's an exercise, I hear from John that...
And wouldn't that be kind of cute, right? Like if they were to sneak stuff like that in?
Yeah.
Right, like it can tell. It's like, hey, you shoveling snow right now? There's something kind of fun about that I would kind of like.
I spent some time yesterday digging holes in my yard, dealing with some old house problems, and this would be pretty nice. I think I tweeted that I actually filled my exercise ring by digging holes. It wasn't a single workout, but the Apple Watch knew that I was working harder than I normally do. And by the way, my plumbing, it's all fixed.
So we have some news regarding Ring. Mike, what is Ring exactly?
Ring is a digital doorbell, a video camera doorbell. I will say they have been a sponsor of Relay FM like a year or so ago, but like it's not important for this discussion. But I just mention it.
That's totally why they've been acquired by Amazon.
Yeah, we gave them the platform that they needed to go ahead and be acquired for $1 billion by Amazon. But it's like it's like a home security system, but it goes on the outside of the door. Like it's got sensors in it, it's got a camera in it. My uncle has one of them, and it's cool. Like it is a cool piece of technology because you can, if anybody walks past, it will send a notification to you, and you can speak to people through the doorbell. They also do cameras. Like they expanded to like everything, right? Creating like a home security system. Well, it was announced yesterday that Amazon have bought Ring for $1 billion. It is expected that they are going to use this as a way to bolster the Amazon Key project, which is, you may remember this is the thing where Amazon will set you up with, like, you buy it, but they come and fit it, a lock, some kind of camera doorbell, and I think they were using, I think Ring was one of the camera doorbells they were working with anyway, and that meant that delivery drivers could come to your house, they could be let in, they could just leave a package for you and go.
All right, yeah.
Right? So it is expected, and I think it's easy to see, that they have bought Ring so they can brand their own technology and use Ring's expertise in helping them create and expand this, and maybe even also, and probably very likely, offering this as a service to existing Ring digital doorbell owners. Right? Because they have also bought probably, and I think it's pretty easy to assume, the largest current user base of digital doorbells. They have just bought those, right? Because Ring is pretty popular, and I mean, I honestly don't know another one. I'm sure that there are other ones, but like Ring is the only one, at least in my mind, that occupies any kind of like brain space. So
this is not. Is this also a door lock or just a doorbell? With
I believe
video?
that Ring only do a doorbell.
That is correct.
But there are other companies that do door locks. I mean, honestly, I now expect to see, if there is some kind of third-party vendor that makes locks, right? I expect to see Amazon by them now as well.
Is that like the August smart lock?
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
that one. I know that one.
And then there are existing companies like Kensington, right, who make actual locks. They
Right,
make them as
right.
well, right, because they're trying to make sure that they remain relevant, which is a smart thing to do. So I kind of have a couple of thoughts about this, that kind of questions. Like, if you're a customer of Ring, like how do you feel about this? Like, is it frustrating to have the company that you've kind of invested into your home change hands and then possibly change direction? But if you get additional features, is it worth it? Like, what do you think about this? I know that neither of us have these, but like, how do you expect you would feel if you were a customer of Ring?
I wonder if the customer of Ring is the type of person who also owns an Amazon Echo. Because if that's the case...
I mean, there's got to be a pretty good overlap. Like, if you're
Exactly.
in the digital doorbell world, you probably have another product that hooks into that sort of stuff.
Exactly. Now, if you are a Google person, now this may be a problem because you're in a different ecosystem.
Oh man, I wouldn't be surprised if Amazon still extended that out. You know what they're like. I mean, all of this stuff is just to make sure that people buy more things from Amazon.
I don't know. On one hand, there's the ecosystem play that I think it's interesting to consider. Like, if you're the tech-obsessed person who buys a digital doorbell because you want streaming video and someone rings at your door, are you happy that now Amazon owns the doorbell? But also, there's the fact that this ties into the whole system of the Amazon delivery person is coming to your house, and now we have a better like. I don't want this to sound wrong, but you could make the case for the Ring doorbell to be an employee monitoring system for Amazon to check how their delivery people actually work.
I think that is definitely another part of the Amazon Key project, that they get to know how their people are actually working.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's not a wild thing to assume.
There has been this... now, I don't know if this is actually... You know that... I should give you some context. Italian folks have been obsessed with this word that they have discovered over the past few months under the elections, which is fake news. Now, everywhere in Italy, on a daily basis, on the news, on websites, on newspapers, you see mentions of fake news. And there's been this story that was going around a few weeks ago of Amazon using ankle bracelets on employees working in the Italian distribution center in northern Italy, using these ankle bracelets to monitor what the employees were doing inside of the warehouse. And there's been this huge outcry about these ankle bracelets. And I think a couple of Amazon spokespeople, they said, we're doing this. This is just like a patent. It's not like a real product. This is fake news. But I think even the fact that Amazon is exploring the idea of, ankle bracelets,
Like, you still thought of it.
like the devices that law enforcement use for house arrest, basically, and you use those to monitor employees. Even the fact that somebody at Amazon thought about this idea is terrifying to me. And so when you mentioned the doorbell with video and the Amazon Key project, I mean, of course they're going to check on how the Amazon delivery person actually does the work at your door. Man, it's creepy from that
Let me
point of
ask you
view.
a super quick question, because we never actually spoke about the Amazon Key. Like, it was in my list for a while and we just never got to it. Would you use this? I mean, you have a very specific problem, right? Would you use
no.
this?
No.
You wouldn't?
Not a single chance. I'm not letting anybody in my house. Not
Okay.
even not even before, like in the area between the front door and the actual door. I don't know if there's a name for that. Like a
Like the
hallway.
porch or whatever.
Like the porch
Oh,
or
you mean
something? Yeah.
the hallway? Okay, I see what you mean. Yeah, okay.
Like no. My personal stance is that no, the package stays outside. Yeah.
I don't have a complete answer.
Why?
It depends, because I fully appreciate the creepiness to it, but I would want to like weigh this up in the way that I weigh up every argument of like creepiness versus convenience. The good thing is I'm at home most of the time when Amazon deliveries are coming in. But like if I didn't work at home, I might consider this. Like if my house is empty every day, Amazon just can't deliver to me, like ever. But if I had this, then they can. And I know that I hate it when I miss deliveries.
Maybe you should just move next door to a bakery.
Yeah, I mean, it's just creepy from that point of view. And as you mentioned real quick, it's not an ankle bracelet, it's a wristband.
Okay.
I found so that's still
Wristband feels better than ankle bracelet in a way that I can't fully explain.
you're still asking employees to put on a thing that you know. Anyway, I understand why you would like the idea of never missing a delivery. But still, there's the idea of...
But yeah, this is my thing. Like, this isn't like a clear-cut thing, because there is still that but that runs around in my brain. Because this isn't a problem with Amazon. This is a problem with other humans. Do you know what I mean? Like, a lot of these problems are like, I have a problem with the company. But I don't necessarily have a problem with the company. But this is just like rando people walking into my home, right?
Yes.
So that's the problem I have. There's a good video that I'll put in the show notes from the Washington Post where they put a video together about this, like showing how people are actually delivering. It looks interesting. I recommend people go and watch it. But anyway, let's take a break and thank Squarespace for supporting this show. Enter the offer code WORLD at checkout and you'll get 10% off your first purchase. Make your next move with Squarespace. They let you easily create a website for your next idea. And with the ability to grab a unique domain name, take advantage of award-winning templates, have it all backed up with 24/7 customer support and so much more, they are the perfect all-in-one platform to let you put your ideas online. No matter what type of website you want to make, Squarespace has all of the tools that you're going to need. You don't have to install anything, you don't have to patch or upgrade anything. They take care of all of that stuff for you. Maybe you want to make a blog, maybe you eventually want to add a store to it. Maybe you have a gallery of images that you want to show in a beautiful portfolio. Maybe you have a business and you want to be able to show people information like maps and opening times and all that kind of jazz. Squarespace has all of the tools for all of these and so much more. If you can imagine it, I'm sure you can build it with Squarespace. Their plans start at just $12 a month, but you can sign up for a free trial today with no credit card required by going to squarespace.com. Then when you sign up for a plan, use the offer code WORLD, WORLD, to get 10% off your first purchase and show your support for Connected. Our thanks to Squarespace for the continued support of this show and Relay FM. Squarespace, make your next move, make your next website. So, do you remember there's probably a month or so ago, Ming-Chi Kuo had a report with KJR Securities about the upcoming line of iPhones for this year, right? And it included a complete refresh, 3 phones, different sizes, etc., etc. As of yesterday, when we're recording this, so on Monday 26th of February, Mark Gurman, I was going to call him Mark Bloomberg, which was something that Jason did on Upgrade. So there's just something in me now.
He said Gloomberg or something.
Gloomberg, that was it. Mark Gloomberg. The very talented Mark Gurman reported in Bloomberg, basically confirming this and giving some additional details. So based upon Mark's sources, in 2018, we're going to see 3 phones. The first one, which is kind of the headline of this, is an iPhone X Plus. It will have it will be basically the body of the current Plus model with a screen size of close to 6.5 inches, making it one of the largest screens in a mainstream phone on the market. The possibility of the screen resolution of this will be 1242 by 2688, which is the most awkward screen resolution I think I've ever come across.
Bunch of random numbers.
Just nothingness. It will have all of the features from the 10, like an OLED screen, a Face ID, and Apple are considering adding a dual SIM card slot. This would be for the first time they've done this. This is a big feature in some markets. In Europe and in Asia, it's for business travelers, right? When you're traveling across a landmass where you might need different SIM cards, which is not necessarily a thing that happens in the US. Depends on availability of carrier. But obviously, the Apple SIM would be a perfect task for this, like on the iPad. So you could just buy whatever you need when you need it. But as you can understand, carriers are pushing Apple on this, which is why the Apple SIM does not exist in a phone right now. As well as the iPhone 10 Plus, there will be an update to the iPhone 10, probably like an iPhone 10s or something like that. It will feature a faster processor, all the regular updates, but they are considering adding a gold color to the line, which this phone would get. And then also, I mean, I don't know which is more interesting to me, either the Plus or this, which is a lower cost iPhone 10 style phone. Let's call it the iPhone 9 for the sake of conversation, because that makes sense.
I wanted to go with iPhone 10 Lite, but sure.
Let's just keep it simple. So the iPhone 9 will look basically like the iPhone 10. It will feature an edge-to-edge screen. It will have Face ID and a notch, but will feature an LCD screen instead of OLED, and aluminium on the edges instead of stainless steel. It keeps the glass back for wireless charging. So I'm going to ask you, Federico. So this is the lineup, right? Why are Apple expanding this line so fast, both up and down?
So I had this conversation with my girlfriend a while back when the rumor first appeared. Because I wanted to measure her reaction. So she's still using the iPhone 7. She didn't want to upgrade to the iPhone 8, and she didn't want to get an iPhone 10. And I told her, so Apple may be doing 3 iPhones this year. They're going to do like an iPhone 10, but faster, a bigger iPhone 10 Plus, and a new, like, lower priced iPhone that looks like the 10, but it's not the real 10. And her first reaction was, why are they doing the cheap iPhone again? Nobody wants the cheaper iPhone. So now, I don't think she's totally right in her assessment of the situation, but I think she's right in that there's a perception of, especially this year, of Apple has done these 2 iPhones where the iPhone 8 and the 8 Plus, I count them as one, but basically there's a perception, I think, that people see this old boring iPhone that nobody wants and the cool new iPhone that is too expensive. Now, And I think, that the numbers, they speak for themselves, that, Apple still sold a lot of iPhones, and some folks are saying they didn't sell enough iPhone 10 units, and others are saying the iPhone 8 sold surprisingly well. I'm not talking about the numbers here. I'm talking about, I think there's a general perception. There's a sense that nobody wants the cheaper iPhone.
I'm going to take it a step further than that, actually, because I'm agreeing with the majority of what you're saying here, but there is a different point which you have to consider of how long it takes to make these phones, right? So,
yeah, sure.
This plan will have been in place before the iPhone 10 came out, in theory, because there's a long lead time on making these things. So it isn't, I don't believe that it is about public perception. I believe it is Apple's assumption of future public perception that would have made them make this decision, which is like the general agreed upon notion that phones with new designs sell better, right? They are more appealing. So, I don't think that this is a reaction. I think a lot of people are painting this, and I'm not saying you were, but a lot of people paint this as like a reaction to the iPhone 10 in some way. I don't think it's that at all. It is the assumption of smart product designers about what people will think of their products.
Yeah, but in any case, the conclusion is the same. So
that was my point. Like, the conclusion is the same, but I just wanted to say, like, I agree with what you're saying, but I just think that, like, where it comes from is slightly different.
Yeah, but from a general public perspective, folks, they do not assume that, oh yes, Apple totally planned this, and I agree with you. I want to believe that they saw this in advance. People will see this as a reaction, and they will say, oh, so Apple also knows that the iPhone 8 didn't do well, and so they're making every iPhone like the iPhone 10, which I think, no matter the angle that you're taking to evaluate this, I think is the right decision. That there's the idea of new that, as Don Draper used to say, creates a niche in people. It's a way to get into people's minds, to make something feel new. So I agree. I mean, I think it's a good idea to have 3 iPhones that look new. And especially the 10 Plus, I think both you and I were going to totally get one because it sounds incredible.
A 6.5-inch screen iPhone. That's
imagine that.
bonkers. The iPad Mini is 7.9 inches. Like, that, it was going to be like next level. I'm going to feel like I'm holding a billboard. It's just be incredible.
As I've said before, I'm not sure that a larger iPhone 10 really is for me. I've gotten used to the smaller form factor, but I definitely would want to check one out if this rumor does come true in the fall.
Yeah, but I want to talk about this cheaper one because I have a few questions. I want to know, how can Apple differentiate the line? Like even the basic stuff. How do you pick a name? I mean, let's assume iPhone 9. Okay. How do you separate features? Color options, storage capacities, or how do you sell the idea that this one doesn't have OLED? Do you want to explain OLED versus LCD, or do you just gloss over and pretend it's not a difference? So where do you draw the line? Is it the camera? Do you get like a inferior camera on the 9, but you get the better one on the 10 and the best on the 10 Plus? Do you make the 10 Plus the best option in terms of battery or memory? Does Apple want to mention memory? I don't think so. I just wonder what's the best way to explain people why this iPhone that looks like the 10, but it's not a 10, costs less, without making it too technical.
Here is my theory on this, right? You draw as little lines as you possibly can. And I think there's two reasons for this. One, Apple should have learned from the 5C. They drew a lot of lines with the 5C, and it didn't sell very well, right? And I think Apple were expecting and hoping to keep that phone around for a while, and they kind of didn't, because there wasn't that much difference between the C and the S, right? It was a small price difference, and it was very different visibly. So I expect that this phone will look as close as they can possibly make it to look like the iPhone 10. If there are colors, it will have all of the colors. It will have, and it will be pretty close. I mean, I would even say it will get like, and I have a reason for this, I think it will get like the fastest chip available at the time, so they'll all get new chips. They'll give the best camera they can possibly give it, so it will be an improvement on the 8, right? Maybe it gets the camera the iPhone 10 has, for example. And the reason that I think they do all of this, they pack this thing full of features because it stays around for 3 years. And that they keep this phone in the lineup as a cheaper version of the iPhone 10 when they push the more expensive ones forward, and then they slow the development down on the cheaper version. It continues to become cheaper whilst continuing to look fresh, and is full of like features that's going to last it a couple of years. So they effectively have a second iPhone SE. That's my theory on this.
Yeah, that could be. That makes a lot of sense. My only preoccupation is that not for the 10 Plus, but the difference between the 9 and the 10 will be hard to tell unless there's some visual cues, like
the stainless steel and aluminium will be a big one, right? Like visually,
could be, but most people keep it in a case, so that element is sort of more subdued, I guess. I guess that in any instance, this is probably good news for Apple, because at that point you just want to have one of two new phones, and you're not creating that sense of, oh, I'm spending money to buy a phone that looks old, but everybody's gonna be happy anyway because the phone looks new. So that's the good news.
And I would say the thing is, if you look at the 6, the 6S, the 7, and the 7S, that would argue potentially that Apple don't really care about trying to make the phone look different from other ones, right? Those phones, they didn't really do anything specific to make them look visibly different than the ones that came before it. So they may just apply that thinking to this. So like the 9 and the 10, they look basically the same.
Do we think that they're making because when the iPhone 8 came out, a lot of other folks with websites and tech podcasts, they made the argument that the iPhone 8 was a classic design that it didn't need to change. So if they're changing it with the iPhone 10, are they doing it because they don't think that design is classic anymore? Or is it because it's the right thing to do to move the line forward? Or is it because of more profits?
It has to go away eventually, right? Like you can't keep that design around literally forever.
Unless it's the SE.
Well, but the SE, I think the SE, that exists in size, not design. So they wouldn't be able to shrink that design down in theory, right? Like I think the SE exists for size and price, and I expect them to do something there with that going into the future. But like it's just like, you know, I agree that it is like a classic design because it's been around for so long and they took it to its end. But like you can't just keep it around forever for the sake of it. And you know what? They'll probably keep it in the lineup for one more year as an even cheaper phone, right? Like you could still buy it if you wanted to. You know, like that you keep the old design around for a while, as they've always done. They could still do that because they'll probably still be able to sell the iPhone 8 for cheaper than the iPhone 9, right? So they may just keep it around for another year or two as an even cheaper version of a phone to buy. You know, I think you've got to move on from it. Personally, I think it's the right thing to do, to move on.
Yeah.
If anything, just to continue to proliferate Face ID as a thing, right? Face ID and wireless charging. Get that into every phone that you release now, like how they did with Touch ID, right? You put Touch ID into every product. Like Apple should not be releasing a new iOS device in 2018 that doesn't include Face ID. Like that's just what they should be doing now. If they're releasing a kind of top class product, it should include Face ID. Like I would like to see Face ID on the SE, but I don't even know if they know what they're going to do with that. Right? Like that seems like a really difficult problem to solve. Like if you're going to keep the SE around, what do you do with it? But yeah, I'm very interested in this. I do have a question for you actually about the Plus phone. In Gurman's article, he says that there are concerns that the larger phone could cut into the iPad market. I rolled my eyes at this, and I wondered what you think.
I don't think it's the case.
It's not the same.
It's not the same because even if the size is inching closer to to an iPad Mini, there's still a big ergonomic difference between holding an iPhone Plus and an iPad Mini.
And you'd expect it's going to look like a big iPhone from a UI perspective, and applications will treat it like a big iPhone. Yes. They're not going to treat it like a small iPad.
No, they're not. And I don't think it's especially because the iPad market seems to be, pretty established in either the cheaper iPad, the 9.7, and the iPad Pro line. I don't think people using the 9.7 or a 10.5 or a 12.9, they will accept an iPhone Plus as a substitute for whatever they're doing on an iPad. So I would also roll my eyes at that belief that, with an iPhone Plus, now folks who are using iPads will stop using and buying iPads to just use the iPhone, because from a ergonomic and UI perspective, it's a different device. Yes, it runs some of the same apps, but you wouldn't want to work at a desk with an iPhone Plus and a Bluetooth keyboard. That would be horrible. Like iPad users will not accept that as a replacement, and not even casual users. Like if you're buying an iPad for your kid or because you want to read some books at night, you're not gonna get an iPhone Plus instead. So yes, it is going to be more useful for more people that can do more, but if you made up your mind that you want to use an iPad, especially for work, which is what apparently most people do with the iPad these days, because we can talk about the numbers and the ASP and all that stuff, I don't think you're going to get an iPhone Plus as a replacement, and unless you are that niche of extremely casual iPad users who also use an iPad Mini and very infrequently, then maybe you will just say, you know what, I'll just watch Netflix on my iPhone. But I don't think that should concern the iPad division at Apple, that this phone is gonna cut into the iPad profits.
Do you got anything else you want to add on the iPhone lineup?
Just one note that, and it's a question that I wonder if the one of the differentiators here between the 9 and the 10, if it's going to be the aluminum versus steel. And I wonder, is it limited to just the band around the device, or is it also aluminum in the back? And if it's also in the back, how can you enable wireless charging?
I'm pretty sure I read in the report that he mentions it will keep glass.
Okay.
It's a bit difficult because he's mentioning like multiple different things, but yeah, I think that it will keep glass. And that would be weird because that would be a regression from the 8. If it went with an aluminium back instead of a glass back, you're regressing, which doesn't make any sense, right? Like that would be a bad decision, I think.
So yeah, it'll probably just be the band and support wireless charging, because they're making this big move into air power in theory, and wireless charging.
What's that? Sorry. Is that a product that exists? I don't know.
I really want. I was thinking today about air power that I actually want like a couple of those. Are you still not in the wireless charging, bandwagon, Mike?
No,
Okay.
there isn't a wireless charging product that exists today that entices me.
Okay.
I'm not like a wireless charging denier, right? Because
No,
like
I don't think-
there is someone in my household that uses it every single day, right? Like I don't think that it's bad. It just doesn't do anything for me. Like personally,
Yeah.
I already have products that do what I want, and there is no wireless charging product currently on the market that gives me anything different.
You are the cable equivalent of a flat earther, like a cabler,
Yeah.
like a lightning,
Yeah,
lightninger.
Power comes from cables only. Today's show is also brought to you by PDF Pen from Smile. PDF Pen equips you with everything that you need for more powerful PDF editing. It is the ultimate tool for editing PDFs and going paperless. It is time to get your documents in order, and with PDF Pen, you can. You'll be able to split and combine PDF documents to send just the right things to people who need them. You'll be able to quickly and easily fill in PDF forms, whether they're interactive or not. PDF Pen don't care about that. You can even add page numbers, redact account information, or perform OCR on scanned documents. Hey, if you're looking for something in particular in a document, you can find and automatically highlight all instances of a specific term as well. And when PDFs need a small fix or a tweak, like correcting a typo, you can use PDF Pen to sort that out. I've done that a bunch of times. Like I've gone through, created a document in Pages, I've saved it out, like I'm ready to go, I've signed it, and I'm like, oh, darn. And then I realize I made a spelling error, which happens to me quite a lot. So I can go in with PDF Pen and I can fix it. Just fix it straight into the PDF. It's so handy. It saves you from having to go through that whole rigmarole all over again. PDF Pen 3 is tailor-made for iOS 11 as well, so you can get all those great benefits no matter where you are on all of your devices. And PDF Pen Pro on the Mac can now create PDF portfolios as well, which can be great for presenting year-end documents if you're in that mode right now. If you're thinking about trying PDF Pen out, now's the time to do it. They've added over 100 enhancements with their most recent release of PDF Pen 9. Get organized. It's the time to go get organized. Go to smilesoftware.com/podcast to see what PDF Pen can do for you. And don't forget to tell them that you heard about them on Connected. That's smilesoftware.com/podcast to find out more. Our thanks to PDF Pen from Smile for their support of this show and Relay FM. So there's a rumor in Mac Rumors. This came from previously mentioned Ming-Chi Kuo. We're in rumor season right now. I think this is mostly because this is a real like dead time for like especially Apple news, right? So rumors kind of take over. But it is interesting. You know, we have a lot of good discussion about it, and this is a new one. This is a brand new one. According to Ming-Chi Kuo, Apple is planning to create their own over-the-ear headphones. They will have what is referred to as an all-new design. And my thought on that is, well, yes, of course, because it doesn't exist right now. It's like any design is all new. And will include the W1 and W2 chip.
Both of them?
Apparently. Oh, W1 or, I should say. W1 or W2 chip, like whatever is around, right? Because there are also rumors that there are new AirPods coming with a W2 chip. So I guess it depends whatever the current is.
Okay.
Or maybe they put both of them in. Who knows? I doubt that. But you never know. Apparently, Apple is currently lining up parts suppliers. Do you think that Apple would make these? Do you think this is a thing? Do you read this rumor and you're like, yeah, this makes sense?
It does, from the perspective of Apple is making a HomePod for your ears, therefore a head pod. In the sense of they're
Please don't come up with product names for them. Please don't do that. Don't be that guy.
I know that I have so much fun pretending making up Apple product names. There's folks who do it on Twitter, like seriously, and
that's why I don't. Just keep them in your own brain.
I do it sarcastically just for you because I know you love it.
I have no problem with like
MacBook adorable, type of stuff.
Well, I never come up with those. Yeah, I proliferaate them. I just don't like HeadPod. That's real bad.
Why don't you want?
I'm sorry, Federico.
Don't you want a HeadPod?
I can tell you, I really don't want to do that.
Do you want foam pods? Is that what you want, Mike? Foam pods, or
I don't even know what you would call over-the-ear headphones.
All right. So anyway, the real point is that I could see a space.
Oh God, they might actually call them HeadPod. Oh God.
So my my point is that there's a space, I think, between, or rather like a niche of people like me who would like something that are not Beats headphones. Because I find it's not even the Beats sound, which I'm not super a fan of, but I also don't think it's the end of the world. Like
Have you changed your opinion on that? You used to like the sound of Beats, right? I would say for the record, to help you, I had a pair of Beats and I liked the way they sounded.
I like them. I don't love them.
Right.
I think they work best for some types of music. The sound that I love is something more similar to the B&O H6 second gen. It tends to be more, I don't want to talk about sound, but I think the Beats works best for hip hop and, EDM, that type of stuff. But my main problem with the Beats, so it's not the sound, and I know that a lot of people think Beats are like the Antichrist or something. No, I think they're totally fine sound-wise. My main problem is that even the Beats Studio, which I'm wearing right now, I use them to do podcasts. I cannot wear them for multiple hours because they give me a headache. Even if in theory they are over-ear headphones, they're not big enough for me. Whatever it is, they just give me a headache. They're not as bad as the Solo, which are on-ear headphones. Those give me a headache in like 20 minutes. And I think there's a way for Apple to make a product that sounds even better than the Beats headphones, that is much more comfortable and that approaches the high end the same way that the HomePod approaches the high end of home speakers, and that is easy to use, has insane battery life, is easy to configure like AirPods, and has some kind of Siri integration and maybe active noise cancelling. I could see, because I know that I want this type of product when I sit down to just listen to music, which is something that I think not everybody does, just sitting down to listen to music, because most of us, we treat music as fancy background noise. That's what music for many people is, me included, because most of the time I just leave music in the background. But there's also times when, like a couple of hours at night, where I want to go through my music library and I want to listen to music without doing anything else. I want to read the lyrics. I want to just listen to music. And those types of headphones would be great. Now, is that a niche big enough to justify making a product? Maybe, because, Apple makes...
I bet you it's bigger than HomePod.
It's bigger than HomePod, and there's... I don't think there would be any confusion as to what is, under Beats and what is made by Apple. I don't see, because there's folks saying
people don't know.
There's folks saying, oh, but what? There's a problem because there's the Beats Studio and then the Apple headphones. No, because Apple makes AirPods and they also sell the Beats Sport and the Beats X. It's not a problem.
Beats is a brand that people know. I don't think that everybody that knows the Beats brand knows that Apple own Beats, and even if they do, I don't think anybody cares. Like this, I don't think that is too much of a problem. Like, it's not an issue for them. I have a thought about noise cancelling. This feels like something that Apple will turn around and be like, we've solved noise cancelling, right? And that they'll have like a way that they do it, which is different. Like I feel like if any feature,
machine learning, that's what you're looking for.
you know what I mean? Like something,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
there is just a thing that they will be able to say, like, we have done. I would say, like, if they're going to be able to turn around and say that they're doing anything new, I mean, it might just be that it's everything we currently know and they make nice headphones. But like, if they have some kind of innovative feature, I can imagine it being some new way of doing noise cancelling that nobody else has thought of. And the only reason I want this. The only reason I think of this is because noise cancelling currently, however it is, I don't know why, but it makes me feel nauseous. And I just hope that Apple would find some way of doing it where it wouldn't. But honestly, I can't believe that that's the case.
Same for me. Noise cancellation is like someone tickling the inside of my brain, but the part of my brain that is directly connected to vomiting. It's really awful.
I have tried at least 4 different versions of ANC by Sennheiser, by Beats, by Pioneer, and by someone else I don't remember. And it works. I actually think the noise cancelling in the Pioneer Lightning earbuds is my favorite one, but it still does some weird stuff to your brain. You know, that sort of hiss that you have constantly in your ears.
I can't stand that.
It's unsettling for a lot of people, and I understand why. There could be an opportunity for Apple to say we've figured out a way to make this better because we have, I don't know, tons of data about people and we have a lot of resources to get this right. I could see that. There's a question that I wanted to ask you. So let's assume that this product is real and Apple is entering, this high-end audio space with the home speaker and with the over-ear headphones. Now, why did Apple buy Beats? It's a question that has been going in my brain for a while now, and I was looking at this story again with in hindsight because it's been like 3 or 4 years now. So the Apple has so far improved parts of the Beats product line with stuff like the W series chips, longer battery life and better reliability. They have not dramatically changed the designs of Beats stuff, which arguably is the entire point because people know Beats.
I feel like that would be a bad idea, right? If they would have come in and changed the design, because like Beats are popular because of the design.
They haven't also dramatically improved the sound quality. I would say that probably the Studio 3, they sound slightly better than the Studio 2. Beats Music was entirely replaced arguably with an inferior product with Apple Music. Beats Music was doing things way ahead of Spotify 4 years ago.
Some stuff that nobody else is doing.
Nobody else is doing it today, 4 years later. And now Apple is making apparently their own audio accessories with the HomePod, AirPods, and maybe these headphones. So was this part of the plan when buying Beats, or do you think that maybe Apple had a different vision that didn't exactly work out and now they're just trying to make the best of this situation?
Well, my thought would be that they bought Beats so they could make Apple Music and AirPods and these over-the-ear headphones. Like my thought would be that they bought the people and the technology. Like Beats may have done all of this on their own in a parallel universe. Like they may have made AirPods, right? Like these tiny little in-ear Bluetooth completely untethered things. Like we don't know what they had in their labs, right? So my feeling would be that like they bought Beats so they could make a new headphone line of their own, so they could also have people and talent and developers and curators to make Apple Music, and also own the most popular headphone brand in the world, just as a side note. Like, that's how I would look at it. I mean, I know that there are people that understand how to do wireless technology inside of Apple, but I would really expect that they got some help from the company that they bought that makes headphones. It would be kind of wild if they didn't.
So you think they bought them because of the people, the technology, and the prestige of owning Beats?
Yeah, I think it is a mix of all of it, which is why they've been very particular about what they changed and what they didn't. Right? Like Beats Music was not going to win against Spotify, right? Like that was not going to happen for them, I don't think. So they changed that, right? They bought that and changed that. Beats headphones, you'd be dumb to call them Apple headphones, because then the same people that buy Beats headphones probably wouldn't buy the Apple ones,
right? Because
it's a completely different brand. It has a different message, right? And like you can see it, right? Beats branding and advertising has not changed. Like their brand message is basically the same as it was before, and they have ads that you see it every now and then. People like will tweet about an ad and be like, "Oh, Apple made this," right? It's like no, though. Like it still Beats, right? Like because people were like making jokes about that Beats pill, right? And it had that like rubber dude you could put it in.
Yes,
remember? But like that's their brand. Like you'd be crazy to buy a company like Beats and then change the brand. Like it is a branding company that sells headphones.
And it also kind of explains why they're still using mini USB instead of Lightning, because there's Android users, they don't have Lightning cables.
Yeah, it's bigger. It's bigger than that. It would be almost like a thumb in the eye to a big part of your user base, right? Like there are people that don't want that. They're not going to use that. Really, they should move to USB-C, right? Which they probably will,
yeah.
Right? And then you can hit everyone, because everyone has those now in theory. So yeah, I think that like you buy a company like Beats to drain it for the talent that you need, and then you keep it going as an important thing, and you do cross-pollination, right? So like you would never know that the Beats X and the Solo 3 had anything to do with Apple. But yet they carry a chip in them that Apple, in theory, designed, right? But it doesn't say on there anywhere that it's like the Apple chip. It might like say like, oh, works great with the iPhone because of this. But they don't start throwing huge iPhone images and logos all over it. Like they kept it pretty chill because they're smart enough to understand that brand is useful on its own. But then you start making Apple branded stuff because you can then suck more oxygen out of another market.
Do you think so? Let's assume that Apple is making these headphones, and the reasoning is Apple should maybe like a classic Tim Cook strategy of Apple should make a first party version of all the things where our customers are spending money. So let's assume that Apple wants to move to almost like a Xiaomi-like ecosystem of we're just gonna make everything. Yeah. Should Apple make sensors for your home? Should Apple make heart rate chest straps? Should they make light bulbs? Because if we follow this idea of people are buying headphones, well, we'll make our own headphones, like Bender from Futurama type of scenario. Do you think they should make their own stuff from every single area of the most important areas, maybe, of the iPhone ecosystem? Because if we follow that idea, then I could see like an Apple scale, an Apple light bulb, an Apple humidifier, weather sensor, like an Apple everything. So I wonder, where does Apple draw the line in terms of
it's difficult, right? Because like my like immediate gut reaction answer to that is, oh well, they just make things within the area that they play in, but that area is growing, right? So like the area that Apple always make things in areas that they play in, but yet that now includes headphones and speakers in the home and things that you put on your body, right? So like that just keeps growing. I think that like there are logical ways to move, but if I'm Tim Cook, I will make as much as I possibly can, because I don't have an iPhone in me, right? Like I don't have the new revolutionary thing. So considering they probably don't have that, right? Like I'm just going to naturally assume that in current development at Apple, there is not the next revolution. And this is nothing against anybody that works there, but like,
because they don't know what the next revolution is.
Well, I was going to say this should be once in a lifetime, for people. I mean, it was for Steve Jobs like 2 or 3 times in a lifetime, but like the iPhone should be a once in a lifetime type thing. And so there shouldn't be an expectation that they have in a product lab the thing that's going to dethrone the iPhone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's not how this stuff works. So if I'm Tim Cook, I'm like, well, what we have to do is just make sure that nobody ever leaves us.
Yeah.
So we just keep making as much as we can. It's what Mark Zuckerberg is doing with Facebook.
It's almost like an insurance for your company to sort of saturate the ecosystem.
All of these big tech companies are doing this, right? Like Amazon just bought the Ring doorbell.
Right.
Because they are doing everything they can, like Google is, like Facebook is, like Apple is, to extend into your life at a point that you cannot let go.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's all it is. They just want to make sure that they lock in everyone that they have and then make it even more appealing for people to join. That's what all these tech companies are doing now. And I mean, that's what you do, right? Like to a infinitesimally small degree, me and you do that with our businesses. Like you expand within the realm that you can and you keep growing it in a way that people want to keep coming to you to consume whatever they're consuming.
Right. Yes.
So like we just launched a subnet, right, which is a daily tech news briefing, because that is a new area of podcasting that we think we could do pretty well. And we want to make sure that people consume Relay FM content in their lives. So we do that. It's like you and John thought that you had some interesting stories to tell and could create a new podcast for people so they could consume Mac Stories content in a new way, and you take off a piece of that audience. So you created App Stories. Like this is what businesses do to survive, but Apple is doing it at a scale which is so huge. It is, it is unforeseen previously. So yeah, if I'm Tim Cook, I'm going to keep making weird and wonderful technology things that people can bring into their lives so that they'll never leave me.
Yeah, it's an interesting contrast between, a few years ago, Apple sort of, when they were still the underdog in a way, all these experiments, they would have been like the weird and fun experiments of a company trying to survive. And now that they're this huge corporation, the weird experiments are still an attempt to survive, maybe, but I see them, and I think people see them in a different light of, now Apple is going after all these other smaller companies because they want to eat their lunch and they want to make sure that, that people spend more Apple money. And I mean, you could see this concept in multiple areas, like even Apple Pay with the Apple Wallet and the Apple Pay cash card. Like it's a way to make sure that you never leave. And some people think it's creepy. And I think, like when you think about it, it is not creepy, but unsettling in a sense that there's this corporation that owns you. Like, they control your home automation framework and your health records and your money to an extent. I don't think it's
like it is disconcerting that that somewhere inside of Apple there are meetings every day and like written on the wall is a phrase like lock in.
Yes.
That I would expect they probably have their own phrase for this so it doesn't sound so whatever, but the sentiment is still there, right? I mean, that's what the services division is,
yes.
Right? Like continuing to find ways to increase the hold that you have on the customer.
Yeah. And I'm the strangest thing to admit for me is that I am not put off by that idea of, as long as this stuff works better for me, I don't care. And this is scary.
It's the trade-off. It's the trade-off you make.
But it's kind of scary to admit that, like, I'm fine with letting a corporation control all these aspects of my life. And to the point where I kind of feel bad. And I'm like, no, I should be, I should be concerned. I should be worried. But then I think about it, I'm like, no, I'm not. And I'm fine with it because I don't, better Apple than someone else. But I also, like, when I think about it, I also know that it is concerning. So and all this discussion we were just talking about headphones, but I was trying to kind of consider the bigger idea of Apple making more different type of things, and how it relates to like you're into this huge ecosystem, and there's a single corporation and a single CEO that they call the shots here. And how does that make me feel? And I feel both happy because it works and concerned when I think about it because it's kind of creepy. Not in the sense that I think Apple is creepy, but in the sense of there's an entity that controls this stuff and there's nothing I can do about it. And instead, I'm here. I'm just like a stupid guy here liking all of this. Does it make sense? Like this contrast of feelings about this sort of scenario?
Yeah, I just decided not to worry about it. And the reason is, I mean, I can appreciate it, but I don't worry about it because I weigh up my benefit.
Yeah.
And I figure that I'm happy to let the companies have this stuff, let them have information about me, let them become every device I own in my life because I'm happy to trade it off. And I know that there are people that aren't, and like, more power to you, right? Like, that's your decision, and like, you can live your life in the way that you want to live it. I just choose to go for the easiest possible route, especially when it comes to my technology, because I have so many other things to do. And if I can get something that works in a way that I'm happy with and does all of the things that I want, I'm willing to make trade-offs. Like that's what all of this stuff is.
That's exactly my approach. That I'm just aware of what I'm trading off, and I'm fine with it as long as it works better.
As long as you're aware and you're making the decision, you're the one with the real power, Federico. You just keep telling yourself that.
That's what I'm telling myself.
As long as you're the one making the decision, you're in control. Nobody else. That decision you made completely free of any influence from any third party in any way. That's your decision, buddy.
Like, as long as you through the looking glass, essentially. Yeah.
Speaking of which, I'm going to let people make a decision completely on their own about what website monitoring tool to use. But just whilst they're making that decision, I want to tell them about Pingdom. Pingdom is the company who offer uptime monitoring and web performance management. Hey, let me tell you about them, right? If your website was down, this is who you want to know about. Because how would visitors access your content or click that all-important buy now button? How would you know if your website was down? You wouldn't until it was too late, unless you used Pingdom, because they give you the peace of mind that you need. Pingdom will let you know the moment your website goes down in whatever way is best for you. They are dedicated to making the web faster and more reliable. If you're a Pingdom user, monitoring the availability and performance of your server, database, or website will be a breeze. They use more than 70 global test servers to emulate visits to your site, checking its availability as often as every minute. Start monitoring your website today. All you need to do is give Pingdom the URL, and they'll take care of everything else. Go to pingdom.com/relayfm right now and you'll get yourself a 14-day free trial with no credit card required to do so. Then, when you sign up, use the code CONNECTED at checkout to save a huge 30% off your first invoice. Our thanks to Pingdom for their support of this show and Relay FM. So I want to talk to you about fingerprint readers.
Okay.
Do you remember those?
From a few years ago, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, fingerprint readers in phones. So a week or two ago, MKBHD had a video where he was showing off the Vivo X20 Plus UD, which is a phone that includes that I believe it is available, like it is a phone that you can buy that includes a fingerprint reader in the screen. It's made by a company called Synaptics. It is what's known as an optical sensor. It only works on OLED displays for technical reasons that I don't fully understand. And it can only scan your fingerprint at specific moments, because what it needs to do is a light needs to be shone onto your finger from inside the display, which you can see. The screen lights up. You can make a little animation, but what it's doing is illuminating the screen at that point, so then it can read your fingerprint. So this means that you have to wait for the phone to be ready, which is kind of like Face ID, right? Like you raise the phone to wake it or tap the screen and then it looks at you, right? So it's similar in that you'd have to like tap the screen or unlock it or raise the phone up so it's ready to shine the light onto the sensor area and monitor your fingerprint. Now, in MKBHD's tests, he concluded that it is faster than Face ID, but slower than Touch ID. Right, so it sits somewhere in the middle. And that is because, like, whilst it's quicker at doing the authentication than Face ID is, but you still have to do something to let the phone know that you're ready, right? And Synaptics have said that in theory, the sensor is unlimited in size, so you could make it as big or as small as you want. And they've just done this. So Mobile World Congress is this week, or just this past week, and they have a concept phone called the Vivo Apex. And what this has done, it is taken the screen, taken the sensor from like the size of your fingertip, which it was in their phone that you can get now, the X20, and they've extended it to become basically the bottom quarter of the entire display of the phone. So you can effectively just put your finger or your thumb anywhere on that area of the screen, and it will unlock. It can scan it and unlock. Just as a side note, this phone also includes what I think is a kind of cool pop-out selfie camera. So the selfie camera pops out at the top of the phone, and they do this so they can keep super tiny bezels without needing a cutout, which is kind of cute, and I think I kind of love it. I don't think I would want it on an iPhone.
God, it really does pop out.
But like, I kind of think it's really fun. Like, there's something kind of fun about it. It just pops out when you need it, and then you don't have to worry about the NSA looking at you all the time. Marquez predicts that this may become a widespread feature in phones by 2019, because it's kind of, there's still some quirks about it, right? Like a company like Samsung would probably only want to do it when they could scan a larger area, right? So there's an additional benefit, and that technology, whilst available now, is taking time to roll out. And I believe, from what I can piece together on this, I think Synaptics are making these phones so people will buy their fingerprint chips, right? Like, they are a company that has created this technology that can do the fingerprint scanning. So they are making phones in small quantities, and also phones that they're showing in concepts. So people will buy that.
It's,
so by the way,
yeah.
I don't know if I mentioned, but the Vivo Apex concept phone, that was a video done by The Verge, who were at Mobile World Congress. So this is technology that is now beginning to exist, right? Like, it was something that we were talking about a bunch when thinking about what a bezel-less iPhone would look like. So having thought about this, having looked at this, would you want this? Would you give up Face ID for this kind of fingerprint reader?
Nah.
Why? Why?
I was reminded of this today, or rather yesterday. It snowed real bad in Rome, and I was wearing gloves, and I realized when I unlocked my phone that it was not a problem, like it was last year when I went on to the Alps for the holidays, and it was constantly a problem. Yes, I could have bought iPhone compatible gloves, but I didn't want to worry about it, and instead with Face ID it was not a problem, and I realized, oh yeah, it's nice that this is no longer a concern. Or anytime I take a shower and then I can use my iPhone and I can unlock without having to, wipe my hand real good because it's, water interferes with Touch ID, all that stuff. I like Face ID. Yes, it's not perfect, but the times that it's not perfect are less important than the daily problems and limitations of Touch ID. So I would not want to go back. I like Face ID more than Touch ID.
What about in addition?
I don't see the point of having in addition to Face ID. I think Apple should make one single biometric authentication system that works great, not a couple that work okay. I think I would rather have Apple invest all of their time and money on making Face ID 2.0 better than saying, oh, we're gonna stay on Face ID first gen for a while and then also roll back Touch ID inside the screen. I could see the accessibility arguments for saying, well, Touch ID worked better for some types of users because of some physical limitations that are involved with Face ID, but for the majority of people, I think either there's a way to make Face ID work for everybody, or it's just not worth it to bring back Touch ID and add complexity, even just for developers to account for two different systems or two different interfaces. I think we're past the Touch ID era, and we're going to see Face ID everywhere. It would be strange, I think, to see Apple saying, "Oh, we're bringing it back, and now you need to choose." I don't think it's happening.
I agree that I don't think that they would ever do it. My only point would be I really hate having to enter my passcode, and I definitely have to still enter my passcode more than I ever entered my passcode with Touch ID.
Really?
Yeah, it still fails on me, and it fails on me in situations where I can't work it out, right? All I really want is like just some kind of secret way that I can tap something on the screen to let it scan my face again, right? Like tell the phone to scan it again. Like it failed once.
Yeah.
Let's do this over. Like that's what I want, really. Like even if it like just tap the padlock and it will do another scan. Because sometimes I know there's a reason that it wouldn't work, or sometimes it doesn't work and I don't know why it is, right? And I feel like I'm having to like turn like lock and turn off the screen, rewake the screen, because I'm still and one of the reasons for me for this is I'm still doing the thing where it shows me my notifications after it does the Face ID thing, right? So sometimes I just want to read my notification on my phone or whatever, and it won't unlock, and I don't know why. So I would like it for that, but outside of that, like I don't want Touch ID or fingerprint sensors instead of the face sensor, because I do really like all of the benefits that it has, right? Like as you mentioned, right, that you don't need to if you're out in the snow and you got your gloves on, you don't need to scan your fingerprint. And I like that when I hold my phone, I just look at my phone and it unlocks. Like I like that sort of stuff. When it works, it is like a million times better. But it doesn't work 100% consistently.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work as consistently as fingerprint scanning did. And I hope and believe that Apple will just make it better and better over time. But let's just imagine, hypothetically, if this was as good as it could ever get, then I would also kind of like a fingerprint sensor as well as like a secondary. So I don't have to enter in a passcode anymore. I hate entering in the passcode. I feel like a Luddite when I'm entering the passcode because I feel like I've gone back so far, right, at that point, you know? Because this was never a thing that you had to do with Touch ID. And one of the reasons I think it sticks out to me more is if Touch ID failed, you had a way to just make it do it again. And I think that it makes the failures stand out more to me, because if it fails, I can't make it do it again. You know?
Yeah, I'm on the record saying that I don't like the lock screen UI. I think it should be done better. I think there should be just the design itself. It should be different, and it should allow you to more easily say repeat this process, repeat this step. So yeah, I'm with you on this. I think part of the problem could be fixed by a redesign of the lock screen and the authentication dialogue that comes up. But the thing where you get more failed scan sessions, that's it. That's interesting. That it's not getting better, because the whole system was built on the assumption that because of machine learning.
I think it might be getting better. I don't think it's getting worse. I think it might be getting better, but it is still failing on me, right? Like it still fails, and it fails more than I want it to fail.
Yeah.
Right?
Interesting.
But like I will say, I do notice that like there are times recently where it is unlocking where my hand is clearly obscuring part of my face, and I'm like, good work, right? Like I can see you're getting better now, because you're only seeing like 75% of my face and you know it's me. So like I know it's getting better, but then there are times where it doesn't work, and I'm like, I can't work out what I'm supposed to give you.
Maybe now the iPhone assumes that the hand is part of your face.
Oh no, I've trained it badly.
Now you've created another problem.
Now I have to like just draw some fingers on my face, and that's how I live. But yeah, these fingerprint scanners, these are going to show up in a bunch of Android phones, I think. Because I mean, like if I am an Android phone maker, like I would hang on to fingerprint scanning for a while, because it's a differentiator for people that want that. they can't buy an iPhone anymore. Like if you are like, I was going to say like biometrically imposed to using it's a terrible pun, and shouldn't be allowed to do anything anymore. Like if you don't want to use a Face ID thing, like if you don't want to use that, Apple can't give you that product if you want a new phone.
I could see the argument for like companies that their security policies, they do not allow face scanning for some reason.
Because it's new, right? And I feel that's perfectly fair because it's more new, and fingerprint scanning has been around for a very, very long time.
That's the only possible argument that I can think of businesses that require fingerprints and therefore are not adopting iPhones or future iPads because they only ship with Face ID. But I don't know. That seems like a policy that could be changed rather than forcing Apple to roll back Touch ID.
All right, are we done for today?
I think so.
I think we did a good job. I'm very proud of us. If you want to find our show notes, go to relay.fm/connected/182. Oh, by the way, thank you if you bought a t-shirt. We're very happy with the sales of the Tiny Head tee, and we can put to rest Tiny Heads forever now. Thank you if you bought a t-shirt. They'll be shipping out to you pretty soon, I think. Very excited to get mine. If you want to find Federico online, he is at Viticci, Viticci on Twitter, and you can find his work at macstories.net. I am at imyke, IMYKE. You can find this show and many other shows that I do and many other wonderful people do at relay.fm/shows. If you want to wish Stephen Hackett back to the show, he is at ISMH on Twitter. Maybe you can be the reason that he will be let out of his banishment jail to return to us next time.
I'm not in banishment jail. I'm just editing the show. Come on.
Thanks so much for listening. Thank you to our sponsors, the wonderful people at Squarespace, Smile with PDF Pen, and Pingdom. And we'll be back next week. Until then, say goodbye, Federico.
Arrivederci.
Adios.